What is up, everyone? Clifton here with Clifton WP, and in this video we are going to be learning about how to create sections in our WordPress websites that have email opt-in forms or sign-up forms. And what's great about this tutorial is we're going to be learning how to be able to do this using 100% free tools. So all we're going to use is WordPress. We're going to use the Gutenberg block editor, which ships with WordPress, and we're going to get a little bit of help from the Kadence theme and Kadence blocks. This is going to be a fun tutorial, so I hope you guys are ready. All right, you guys ready to get into it? Let's go. Okay, guys, so let's quickly go over the sections we're going to be building for our opt-in forms. So we're going to be building out 3 of them. The first one is pretty simple and very straightforward. You have the image of the lead magnet on the left, and then on the right, you have the form ready for people to enter their name and their email and get access to the lead magnet, the guide, the checklist, whatever it is that you have to offer. In the second version, we've added some styling to this, and we spread this out over 3 columns. So we've got the lead magnet on the left, the image of it. Then we have the form in the middle and the benefits of what they will discover when they get this to the right. And then down here, we have a third version. This will make a really nice section on a home page or dedicated page where we have the lead magnet on the right, and then we have the form on the left. And with this design, we kind of have this perception that the lead magnet is overlapping onto the second column and it's popped out a little bit. So it just kind of gives it a nice dynamic effect. And we're going to learn how to build all these. If you want to follow along, all you need to do so is you need a fresh install of WordPress. Okay, so a completely fresh install. If you don't know how to install WordPress, go ahead and watch one of my videos. There's a video that I have where I have explained how to install WordPress. It's very easy to do. So once you install WordPress, then you need 2 things. You need a theme, you need a Kadence theme, and you'll need the Kadence block. So if we go to Appearance, go to Themes, you'll see I already have the Kadence theme installed. But in your case, if you don't have it, just go ahead and click on Add New, run a search for Kadence. And when you run that search, you will find the Kadence theme. Go ahead and activate it for your install. Then the next thing that you'll need is the plugin, the Kadence Blocks plugin. This will add some page building features to your website using the Gutenberg blocks, which is the default page builder for WordPress. Okay, and that's really all we need. And if you want to go ahead and install that in your site, in your install, click on Plugins, Add New, and do the same thing. You're going to search for Kadence Blocks. And once you run that search, here is Kadence Blocks. Go ahead and install it, activate it, and you are ready to get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with building out our page. We're going to do this on a fresh new page. And once again, to reiterate, here's exactly what we're going to be building. We're going to be building 3 of these. This will give you plenty of practice so that you'll be able to build your own opt-in forms in your own websites. Okay, so the first one, which is opt-in number 1, we're going to be working on this one, right? So here we have an image of the lead magnet on the left, and we have some text, and then the form on the right. So this is very easy to create, and we're going to do that right now. The first thing, though, that we need to do is to get our lead magnet. So some of you may be wondering, where do people get lead magnets like this, or where do they get images like this for a picture of the guide that you're going to be giving, or the checklist, and so on. A great place to be able to do that is Canva. So this was created in Canva. If you just go to canva.com, and when you go here, you're able to create any kind of graphic that you want, and it's completely drag and drop and very easy to use. If you go here to Home, and if you just search for book cover, you can actually design your own book cover, or you can use one of these as a startup. They do have pro versions and free versions of things, so you may see a lot of pro offerings, but that's okay. Like this one here is totally free, and the one that I used is free. Matter of fact, if we go and we take a look at it here, you can see that the original version of this one is free. Sorry, I don't want to replace that, but the original version that I had is free. So just get that, change the text, change some colors, drag in a picture, and you are ready to go. And everything here is, it's pretty much drag and drop, right? You can just type in and change anything you want. Here, we can change this to super if we want, but we're leaving this as power, okay? So canva.com, check it out and play around with it. It's free, and they do have a pro version but the free version is pretty much all you need if you want to create an image like this. All right, back to our opt-in that we're going to build out, right? So here's the section we're going to be building out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to new, and I'm going to say new page. This is going to allow me to start on a fresh page, and we're going to call this our opt-in sections. All right. So my page is pretty much already set up, but if you want to set up your page so that it's like this and clean, just go to the Kadence options here on the right, click on the little box that has an edit pen inside of it. And in here, you can set up yours exactly like how mine is. So for page titles, I'm going to go ahead and disable the page title. For the page layout, I want a full width layout. For the content style, I want this to be unboxed. Content vertical padding, I want to disable this. And then everything else, I'm going to leave exactly the same, so that all I really have here is just a wide end-to-end canvas to be able to build out, the email opt-ins on, okay? So let's go ahead and start getting started. Now, those of you who, if you don't know anything about Gutenberg, Gutenberg is really cool, and it is the default page builder for WordPress that's really gaining a lot of steam and giving other third-party page builders a run for their money right now. And Kadence, along with other developers, have really started building out blocks to work alongside Gutenberg and extend it. And that's why we have the Kadence blocks installed. So if you want to see all the blocks that are available after you've installed Kadence, just go ahead and click on this plus sign right here. And these are all the blocks that we have to work with. And we have pretty much everything at our disposal to build anything we want. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So what we're going to do, the first block that we're going to do, and the way blocks work is you just click on the plus sign here, or you click on the plus sign here, and then you grab a block that you want. You can literally drag it onto the page and start building out things with that block, right? So this is a button. And then as you start building things out, there are lots of editing options. So you have an editing toolbar right here. And then also to the right for this block are all the styling that you can do for the block, okay? So this is exactly what we're going to use to build out our opt-in. So the first thing that we need though, so I don't want this one. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, move this block. The first thing that we want is we want a row, right? So a row is going to give us the overall container for building out our section here. And if you go to here and you just search for row, you'll see the row layout. This is the one that we want. We want the one from Kadence blocks. So that row layout is where we are right now, and it gives you some options of layouts that you want to use. The way I like to use this is I like to create a container first. So this is my initial container. And then if you click on the plus sign, I want to create a second container inside of it that has 2 columns. This will give me the ability to style the outside container and also style the inside container as well. So I selected 2 columns. I have 1 column on the outside and 2 columns on the inside, okay? So now if you want to see your columns or you want to see your layout and the way that it's laid out, a good way to be able to do that is to go ahead and click on this stairway up here, and it will break out the layout for that page. All the elements that are on that layout will be listed here, and you can actually navigate and click and select each one that you want to make edits to. So for now, we want to make edits to our inside row, right? So we've got an outside row and we have an inside row. So I want to make edits to my inside row. Then I just select that one, and now I'm working on the inside row. If I want to make edits to the outside row, I can select this one, and now I'm making edits to the outside row. So I'm going to start off at the outside row, and then all the way here to the right, I'm going to go ahead and start making some changes. The first thing that I want to do is I want to create a padding of 84 pixels. Whoops, that's too big. 84 pixels on the top, 84 pixels on the bottom. I'm going to leave margin the way that it is. And then the other thing that I want to do here is I want to make sure that this inside portion here is contained. So if you go down to structure settings and go ahead and select content max width inherit from theme. So my theme has a max width of 1295, and you can see here, this is now pulled in. So no matter how far the outside layer stretches, the inside container will always be this width. Okay, so this will begin giving us the foundation start building out the columns that are contained within our email opt-in. Okay, so now that we've done that, then the next thing that we need to do is we need to work on this inside row right here. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and select that row. So that row is now selected. I want everything to be aligned in the middle. And the first thing we're going to add is the easiest thing, which is going to be our book cover. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to look for advanced gallery. Now I could use image to do this, but the image is the default image block that comes with WordPress. The advanced gallery though comes from Kadence, and it's from the Kadence blocks. And the reason I like using this is because it gives me more options. So to demonstrate that, if I just select an image and add an image here, if you look here to the right, I don't have very many options. I basically have a default rounded. I can select default or rounded, and then an advanced where I can add some CSS. And that really doesn't give me very much to work with. So what I like to do is go ahead and change this out to the advanced gallery version. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove that block here for a moment. And now I want the advanced gallery. So go ahead and search for that. Here it is. Select that. And now with the advanced gallery, I'm going to go ahead and add my image. So I'm going to go to the media library because I've already uploaded this image. And I'm going to add it in here. Insert. So here it is. And if you look here to the right, I have all types of options: link settings, image stylings, caption settings, image shadow, gallery spacing, all kinds of stuff. Now, we only have one image, right? And this is defaulting to 3 images or 3 columns. So the first thing that I want to change is I want to change this to 1. And once I do that, then the entire image takes up the entire space here. So now I have my image in place. Then the only thing I need to do is to style this a little bit so that it's not so big, right? So what we can do here is we can either come here and make this a medium size, but that's a little bit too small. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to keep it at large. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and control the spacing around it by affecting the spacing, the padding, and the margins around this. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, this is contained inside of a section, which is contained inside of a row. And you can move your mouse around. You can select each portion. But to make it easier, I'm just going to open this up, find my row, which is this right here. Here's the section, and here's the image, right? So I want to select that section, and then make changes to the section. First changes I'm going to make is I want, right here on the right, I want my section to have some padding. Okay, so that it brings in the image for me. So my padding is going to be on the top, I'm going to put 40 pixels. On the right, I want 80 pixels. On the bottom, I want 40 pixels. And on the left, I want 80 pixels. Okay, so now we have a much more manageable looking image. Okay, now that it's pushed in. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to add our text. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to select advanced heading, right? Now we could select other headings, but we're going to use a Gutenberg version so that way we get more options. So I'm going to click advanced heading, and then I'm going to add my heading here. So this is the ultimate food. Actually, if we remember, this ultimate power food recipes checklists. Okay, so the ultimate power food. Oh, actually, I don't think it says checklists. Yeah, ultimate power food recipes. Okay, so now we have the ultimate power food recipes. Then the other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that this is highlighted and changed. So we're going to go ahead and style our heading here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, Power Foods, click on the arrow under where it shows me more things, and select the highlighter. And my highlighter is already set up with the right color. So if yours is not, an easy way to do this is to select the heading, go over here to the right, look up your highlight settings, and go ahead and change the color to the color that you want. I am using a color that sort of matches my image so that everything looks nice and uniform. Okay, so far so good. So we now have our image on the left. We have some text on the right. We also want to make sure that this is all the text. So this actually has the word guide in it. And then the next thing we want to do is want to add our little bit of text on the bottom, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add another advanced heading. Now, the great thing about the advanced heading from the Kadence blocks is that it's very versatile. It doesn't just have to be a heading. If you click here under where it says it's a heading level, and if you look at the drop down, you do have an opportunity to make this a paragraph. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that way I have all the editing sections and all the editing capability that comes with Kadence blocks. So now that I've done that, I can go ahead and add my text, right? Learn the 10 power food recipes that will give you maximum energy and so on. So now that's already in there and we're almost there. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to add our form, and then we'll come back and we'll style all these elements so that everything looks good. To add a form, go ahead and click the plus sign here, or if you're unable to do that, just go ahead and hit enter, do a slash, and we're going to type the word F, the letter F, O, and here's our form here. Go ahead and select that, and a form is already populated for us to start making edits. So the form comes from the Kadence blocks free form that they provide you, and you can really build almost any kind of form here. I mean, there are some limitations, but you know, it's a free form and it does basically what you need to do in terms of being able to opt into a list, and you can even connect it to an email marketing service as well. So what we want to do though is we want to customize this so that it looks more like a subscribe form or an email form. So there are going to be some fields that we don't need right off the bat. One, we don't need this message form, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then we're going to go ahead and customize the rest of this. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to change this name field. Actually, I want to add a placeholder. It says enter your name, and then on the email one we're going to do the same thing, enter your email. Okay, and now we have that completely filled out. The other thing is, since we already have the placeholders here and they're visible, I'm going to go ahead and select this and hide the label, hide that label, and now this looks pretty good. And then here we're going to go ahead and type a command, get your free guide. Okay, and then we want to change the color of this to sort of match our palette here. So I'm going to go here, select the button on the form, go to text color. I want that text color to be white. And then the button background color, I want the background color to match this color here. And here we go. A little bit there. There we go. All right, so we've got our button. And then the other thing that I want to do here on hover is I also want to make sure that it is white and that the background is a little lighter color when hovered over. There we go. Okay, now lastly, what we want to do is we want this to extend the full width of the form, right? So we're going to go here and we're going to say the button width, we want that to be full. And now we have our opt-in, and believe it or not, we're pretty much almost done. All we need to do now is style this here and make it look a little bit more presentable, fix the column width and size. I'm going to close this so you can see what this fully looks like. And even if you just stopped here, this is a great, very beautiful looking opt-in form that you can use. But let's style it a little bit more, just tighten it up a little bit and get this looking great. All right, so let's style our heading here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this says the correct thing, which is the Ultimate Power Food Recipes Guide. We'll put a period there. That looks great. And then here we want to control the size a little bit. So I want to go here and I want to click on the sizing typography settings here. You also have typography settings on the right here, but this is a short menu that we can just get to everything really quick. The first thing I want to do is I want to change the font family so I can have a little bit more control. I'm going to change that to Poppins, which is one of my favorite heading fonts. And then on the weight, I want this to be bold, nice and bold, just like that. It looks really good. And then on the spacing, actually on the size of it, let's make this a 64 pixels, not inches, 64 pixels. And then for the line height, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger, 66, to give it some nice spacing there. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the color of the text here. So far this looks good. The Ultimate Power Food Recipes Guide. We're going to change the color here. So I want this to be green. So I'm going to go up here to where it says heading color, click on that. and we're going to select a nice green here. So here is, it's a little too light. Right over there looks really good. Okay, looks nice and fresh. Right there. All right. So now you can see that our text looks pretty good. Then the next thing that I want to do is I want to make some changes here. So in my form under the placeholder, I really want this to say, enter your name. Under email, enter your name. Now this form can be connected to whatever your email service provider is. So if we select the form here, and you'll see all these additional settings. So here are some actions after submit. You can have it go to your email. You can have it redirect to a page, so you can actually do both. And then the free version of Kadence blocks, you can actually integrate it with MailerLite, which is an email service provider. That's pretty good. They do make you go through an approval process, but once you get approved, you can basically connect your opt-in form to MailerLite for free, and I think it's free up to about 1,000 emails, up to about 1,000 emails, and then they have paid versions as well. If you have Fluent CRM, which we'll be covering in later videos, you can also integrate it there as well. And then the rest of the integrations, things like auto responses and database entry, MailChimp, and so on, those all come in the pro version of Kadence blocks. Kadence blocks. So if you're interested in that, I do have a link to the pro version in the description below. Take a look at it. It does give you way more options, but the options that we have here are more than enough for us to accomplish what we need to accomplish. So far our the right side of our opt-in is looking pretty good. We've already styled our heading text, we've styled the paragraph text, and we've styled the form. So I'm pretty happy with this. The other thing that I want to do is, if we're looking at it, this is actually looks really flat. So here's our page is white, and our opt-in image here, it's really flat, and there's not that much contrast. So what I like to do here is I like to add some shadow around it. Now, if you select this, because this is the gallery version of the images, if you go to image style, I'm sorry, not image style. If you go to image shadow, under image shadow, go ahead and enable shadow. And when you enable the shadow, you'll notice that there's a little subtle shadow that shows up here. And we can configure this and change this, but this is really meant for the gallery, and it doesn't really show up very good. So if I go ahead and click publish, and we view this page live, here's what it looks like. And it does look really good. You got a little shadow going on right here that kind of bumps it off of the page. But what I really want is I want the shadow to be a little bit more prominent. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and show you a cool little trick to be able to do that. So go ahead and go back to your opt-in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the gallery. Okay, so if we select the gallery, and then right outside of it, you can select the section that is holding up this image. Okay, if you have a hard time doing that, you can go ahead and look up your layout tree right here, and you can go directly to it and select the section right above it. So there it is right there. And what I want to do is I want to add another section under this. Okay, and then I'm going to style that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to select row layout. I only want one column, right? So here's my one column right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my gallery, and I'm going to drag it into that newly created row. Okay, so now if we look here at our layout tree, you have a section, you have a row layout, we have a section again, and now we have our advanced gallery. And so inside of this section, I'm going to go ahead and select that section, and you see how it's hugging our image here. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted. Now that I have the section selected, I'm going to go right here to box shadow on the section. This is different from the image shadow on the image. So if I go to the image shadow here, I think we turned that on. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And then I'm going to go here to this section right here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the box shadow of the section on. So we're going to turn that on. So here it is. Here's our box shadow. And you'll notice that there's a subtle shadow around this here, okay? I want a little bit more of a blur, so I'm going to set this over to 24, okay? And then I want it a little lighter, so it has to be just subtle, not something too harsh. Very subtle. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and update this. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want to extend this a little bit. So maybe instead of it being 50-50, these columns here, And if you want to get to this, again, you can go to the tree, or you can do this, use this right here, the breadcrumbs down here. But if you're trying to get to it, just select any of the items. So I can select the image, for instance, and then I can move up to the row, and then the section, and then the row. And here I am. Now I have control over both. So what I want to do is I want this to be a little bit longer on the right side. So I'm going to pull this in a little bit, just like that. Drag it in just a little bit, and that is enough. That way our heading is laid out really nicely, text is laid out really nicely, and then we have our form also laid out pretty nicely, and our guide is now at a reasonable size. So now that we've done that, okay, if we go ahead and save our work, I'm going to go ahead and close this tree, and I'm going to view the page, and you can see this looks really nice. We got a nice little shadow over here. Our stuff looks really clean and really nice. And that pretty much completes us building out the opt-in section for the first opt-in. Up next, we'll be doing the opt-in section for the next one. But before we do that, I am noticing that I have made an error here. It says enter your name and then enter your name twice. So let's go ahead and correct that. Go ahead and click on edit page. And I'm going to go to the form. I'm going to select the form. Here we go. Select the form. And let's go to our field settings for email right here. And we're going to change the placeholder to say enter your email. That's what we want that to say. All right, and update. Okay, great. Now there is one thing we need to do before we move on to creating the other layouts, and this is something that you want to implement as a habit as you're building these out, is you also want to make sure that these look good on mobile, right? So we built this out in desktop view, but what about on mobile? How does this look? So the first thing that I want to do is I want to open up my tree here, and I'm going to select the outermost layout. So the outermost row layout, and then I'm going to move over here to the right, and I'm going to change this to tablet view. So when I do that, one of the first things that I notice is here, our image is really small. This doesn't look very good on a tablet. Let's look at it on the mobile. It also doesn't look very good on mobile, right? So we have some work to do here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes here. So the first thing that I want to do here is I want to make the size of the image a little bit bigger. I also want to make the size of the heading smaller. So let's start with the image section here. So I'm going to make sure that I've selected the section that surrounds the image, the section that is creating the padding around it. And now that I've selected that, on the right where I get to make changes to the settings, I'm going to look for padding. Now padding, when it comes to CSS, affects things that happen on the inside of the container, right? So in this container, there's padding that is affecting the inside. Margin affects things on the outside of the container. Okay, so everything on the outside is impacted by the margins, and everything on the inside is affected by the padding. So we need to affect the inside. So the very first thing I like to do when I'm making these changes, I like to set the padding to 0 on everything. And you can see immediately our image is a little bit larger now on tablets. And we're going to leave that there for now. Next is going to be the heading. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the heading here. And then here on the heading, we need to change the size of the text. So I can do that here under advanced typography settings, where I have all the size settings here. And the first thing I want to change is I want to change the font size. So let's change this to 38. Okay. So that's looking pretty good, but there's too much spacing. So let's change the line height to 40. Okay, good. Now that looks pretty reasonable. The smaller text, the paragraph text here, let's go ahead and select that. And maybe I want this a little bit smaller, so I'm going to change this to 14 so that looks good. And then I'm pretty happy with the way this looks on the tablet. I'm pretty happy with the way the form looks. I think this is good. It's nice and big and easy to see. So people who are visiting this will be able to see it. But now it looks really good on tablet. So so now that we've made these changes, let's go ahead and select our row layout again over here. And whoops, it looks like I closed my editing. Row layout here, and let's look at it on desktop again. So desktop, that looks good. That looks good. Again, that looks good. Okay, so everything looks really good. Now, next, we need to look at it on a mobile phone. So if we look at it on a mobile phone, Let's see here. And this does look really good. There's a little bit of too much spacing here. So what we can do is we can reduce this spacing. So if you hover your mouse over here, you can kind of see there is some padding going on here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to drag it to 0. Okay. And then if I come here, I like the way this is laid out, but I think on a mobile phone, this would be better served if it is centered. So I'm going to click on the heading. I'm going to go up here to text alignment, and I'm going to click on align text to the center. Same thing for the paragraph, align text to the center. And then I'll leave this as is because this looks pretty nice and centered. So now this looks really good where it is right here. I'm really happy with this. So now let's go ahead and test it by looking at it on all devices, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select the row again. And on the tablet, that looks really good. On desktop, that looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and update my settings and then view the page, and everything looks great. Now we can move on to creating the next opt-in. Okay, so let's go ahead and build out our next section. Let's take a look at it in review. So this is the one that we just completed. And if we look here, we have the second opt-in. So one of the characteristics you notice about this second opt-in is that it has a background here, right? It looks like kind of like a fish background. We're doing this with dividers. And then we have our lead magnet image here on the left in the first column. We have the opt-in text and form in the second column, and then we have some benefits in the third column. So this is a 3-column opt-in section. So let's go ahead and start building this out. Okay, so here I am on a new page. We're going to call this second opt-in, and I'm just going to add BG. BG is for background. Okay, so this is our second opt-in, and what we're going to do here, we're just going to start here at the very first block, and I'm going to do a / and ROW. That will give me the row layout. So this is just one of the ways you can access the blocks. So we want a row layout this time, and the way I always typically start, I like to have an outer container. So this is our first container here, and then the other thing is we're going to add another section on the inside, so another row layout, and this time I want 3 columns. So here's our 3 columns. Now I'm noticing that things are already sort of lining up in the page, but I do want a full width page. So I'm going to go here to the page settings, and I'm going to disable the title. I'm going to enable full width. I'm going to set the content style to unboxed, and I'm going to set content vertical padding to disable. Then the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and open up the layout tree here so that I can see what my layout looks like. I'm going to select the outermost layout, and then I'm going to go to those settings, and under structure settings, I'm going to set this to be the same max width as the overall website. So I'm selecting this here. Now, I keep saying that, but if I turn this off, I can also set it here. My max width here is 1295, and it'll do it for me. But I like to do it here because I already have that set up in the customizer settings. So what I want to do real quick, because I don't want that to be confusing, is I want to show you where this content max width inherit from theme resides in the Kadence free theme. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this so that I can save my work. And then in a new tab here, I'm going to go open link in new tab. Okay, so this is the front end of the site. So if we go to customize and we go to general and we go to layout, okay, you see here the content max width. That's where this overall setting for the entire theme is. So when I select that inside of a row, what it's telling that row is to go ahead and utilize the content max width for the whole team. And this is where you can come in, and this is where you can come in and make those changes. All right, I just wanted to show that so that it's not confusing. And so now you understand what's happening when you're selecting a row and you're making changes to the structure settings here by saying content max width inherit from theme. It's going to be pulling from that number. Now, if you want a custom number, then you can put that number in here and set it to whatever that you want. Okay, so for us though, we just want it to be 1290, the same as the theme itself. So I'm going to go back out. I'm going to go to my tree to make sure that I'm selecting the outermost row layout. I'm going to go to structure settings and content max width inherit from theme. Okay, so now that's ready. So the next thing that we need to do now is now we now start adding our elements. So I'm going to go right here to this section right here. I'm going to click on add block. I want the advanced gallery. I'm going to go to my media library because I've already uploaded this already, and here it is. I'm going to go ahead and click create new gallery and insert. So here it is. It looks very small. That's because it automatically defaults to 3 columns. I want this to be 1 column. That way I get the full size of the asset. So here it is right here, and this looks pretty good. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to add our text, and we need to add our benefits. So the text here is going to be an advanced heading, and this is the ultimate power food recipes guide. Okay, so that's set up. I want this color to be green. All right, so we're going to give this a nice, beautiful, rich green there, like a nice, healthy green. There we are. Let me a little bit darker. Okay, there we go. And then I want the power food recipes portion to be a highlight. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click on highlight, and my setting is already set up for the orange color that I want. And then I also want this to be a little bit smaller since we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. This is 3 columns now. So I'm going to go ahead and change the font size by clicking on this item here. You can also do it here to the right, but let's just do it here because it's just right in front of us there. I'm going to first change the font family to Poppins. You can change it to whatever you want, but that's just my favorite, one of my favorite heading texts. I want to make this bold 800. And the font size here will be 36. That looks a little small. So let's make that, let's make it 48. There we go. That's a good size right there. Let me see. There we go. That's a good size. So 48. And then we're going to add another heading here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do a / to use a shortcut, advanced heading. I'm going to change this to a paragraph. And our paragraph says, I'm just go ahead and grab it from what we created earlier. There we go. It's our paragraph. And then next, I'm going to add a form / form. And we're just going to go through it again. So I'm going to select the message field, text field. I don't need that. And here, the name field, we're going to go ahead and enter our placeholder. Enter your name. This time we will do it correctly. Enter your email. And then our button, get the free guide, ! And then we need to change the color of our button. Whoops, change the color. Go to button styles, text color, white, button color, background color. We want a nice orange, very similar to the orange that we have for the highlight right there. So FF6500. And then we also want this button to be full. There we go. So full width button. And then we want to hide the labels. So I'm going to come here, turn off, toggle off, show label. And now our guide is looking pretty good. Now the other thing that I want to do is I want this all to be aligned correctly. So I'm going to go up to the outer, not the outermost row, but the second row that's holding everything together. And I'm going to select that I want to vertically align this in the middle, just like that. Okay, so now we've created our image asset. We've created our text and form. Now we need to add those benefits, right? So the benefits, the way I added those is I used a block called the info box block. This is one of my favorite blocks to be able to use because it's just so versatile. So I'll show you how we did this. So just go ahead and click on the plus sign here. And I'm going to close this out. We don't need this right now. So just close this. I'm going to click here on the plus sign, and I want you to search for info. Here's the info box. This is from Kadence blocks. Now that you have the info block, we're going to customize this, and then we're going to duplicate it to save us some time. So to be able to do that, right here on the right-hand side, make sure that the first option is what is selected. And then right here where it says container settings, we want to have a border of 1 pixel. We're going to leave the border color the same. We're going to leave this alone. And then what we want to do is we want to change the background to be transparent. So I'm just going to put a 0 here in the last option here on the RGBA. So now it's now transparent. Okay, so now that looks good. I'm going to close the container settings and move over to media settings. We're going to be using an icon, right? So here in the media settings, we have it that the media is aligning to the top and that the media type is an icon, which is fine. But we don't want it aligning to the top. We actually want this aligned to the left. Okay. I want this in the middle is fine. And the icon that I want is a check. Check mark. Like that. It's good. And the icon size is going to be 30. We're going to leave icon border alone, icon radius alone, because it's already circular for us. And the icon color we want to use is green. So we want to use that same rich green so that our palette is matching and looking good. All right, great. So now we're going to scroll down further more, and media padding is fine. Now we're going to go to title settings. So let's close this. We're done with this for now, for the media settings for now. Now let's move over to title settings. And here under title settings, we're using H2. We actually want this font size to be smaller. So I always start with the size of the actual icon -10. So I'm going to go 20. Looks good. Easy to prepare. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in the text. So our text is now, everything here seems to be center aligned. We don't want that. We actually want this to be left aligned. So I'm going to click here for left aligned. And since this is left aligned and our icon is top aligned, so we're going to go ahead and change our icon under media settings where it says media vertical align. I'm going to make that top. Okay, so now we're matching pretty good. But still, there's a lot of space here, and I want to reduce this space just a little bit. So I'm going to select the container, go to container settings, and here where it says container padding, just reduce this. I'm going to reduce this to 8. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we're done designing our info box, right? So I'm going to go here to the text settings, and I want to change the text color here to, it should be dark. Let's just type it in. Have your meal ready in 5 minutes or less. Now we're just going to duplicate this 2 more times. So I'm going to go ahead and select this here. I'm going to click on the 3 buttons here, and I'm going to click on duplicate. Do it 1 more time. Duplicate. We're going to open up our tree, and we want the outermost layout, right? So we want the top layout, top row layout. This is where we're going to add our our divider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my padding and margin, and I want a little bit bigger padding. So let's do 125. We may change this later, but let's do 125 for now. That way it would allow me to be able to see the divider. So now that we've done that, next we need to add some color. So the background settings here, we're going to use one solid color. It is a lightish brownish color, a little lighter. There we go. Just like that. So we can still see our text and our asset magnet, a lead magnet. A little bit more. There we go. Great. So next we need to add the dividers, right? So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, close the padding and margin option, close the background settings option, and we're going to go here to dividers. So under dividers, we have a number of dividers. We have the bottom divider and we have a top divider. I'm going to start with the top. So when you click on select divider, here are all the dividers that we can add in. And the one that we are looking for has a curve on the outside here and a curve on the right side, right? So curve on the left, upper curve on the right. So we're going to look for that. And I believe that is this one here. Nope, that's not the one. Here it is. This is the one we want, right? So this really nice curve. So if we look over here, it's this really nice curve right here. Okay. And then we have a similar one for the bottom, the reverse, right? So I'm going to go to the bottom. Let me pull this up a little bit. And I'm going to select the divider. So this is happening on the outermost row, guys, on the outermost row. And here it is right here. Good. So we can kind of see the divider here that's having this little nice valley and this little nice curve. So now the other thing we want to do is we want to pull this in tighter to the lead magnet image, right? So we want to pull this in tighter. It's got some space here. It's about 25 pixels or more space. So the way we do that is actually in the divider settings itself. So if you look at the divider settings, we have size controls and we're looking at the divider height. So I'm going to increase this to 170. Okay. And it looks like there's still a little bit more space there. So let's increase it to 180. A little bit more. 190. There we go. Now it's really nicely pulled in. And then I'm just going to do the same thing to the top. 190. Okay, so now it's really pulled in. Let's close this out here. Illusion. Basically, it just looks like right here on the Power Food recipes, it is pulling in right at the lead magnet, right? So it's all diving right at the lead magnet and then opening up to the benefits and the form, okay? Now, can we make this a little bit tighter? Yes, we can. It is looking like the lead magnet is sort of blending in here to the background a little bit. So we want that to pop out a bit. And I think here, we didn't need to do that. It's actually a little bit more indented, but it could use that. So let's do it here. Let's just have some fun with it. So what I'm going to do, first, I need to bring this in a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the divider. Let's just make this 200 to make it overlap. Whoops, that's 500. This is what kind of makes designing with Kadence blocks really fun. You can do so many different things. The baseline is Gutenberg, which is making an absolute killing right now in terms of the things you can do with it. So, okay, so we've pulled that in a little bit, but I just want to give it a little subtle shadow so that the user can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the outermost section here. If you don't know what that is, it's just a section that's housing the gallery. A good way to find it, just open up your tree, go to advanced gallery or whatever item is in there and select the section right above it, right? The section right above it is hugging this image right here. So now that we have that, we're going to turn on box shadow. And now there's a little subtle shadow on there. And I want to increase the shadow to 24. And I want the color to be very subtle. I don't want it to show up too much. I just want a little bit of shadow there. I'm going to go ahead and update this, close out there, view page, and here we are. Just a nice looking opt-in form. Now there's a couple more things we could do. We could create some more spacing. This does look a little bit choked up here, right? So we've got some spacing here. See how we have nice spacing here? So let's do that here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on edit page. I'm going to select, it's easier to just do it with the tree. I'm going to click on, let's click on one of these items here, and here's that section right here. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to come here, look for padding. And on the right, I want 20 pixels. And on the left, I want 20 pixels. That looks so much better. It's basically allowing everything else to breathe. And go ahead and update that. And then view the page. And this looks good. Now remember, this looks good on desktop. We also need to make sure that we optimize this for mobile. So how do we do that? Well, go ahead, edit page. Select the outermost row or pretty much any row so that you can get the options for the mobile screens here on the right. Select the tablet version. And if you take a look at this, you can see this doesn't look very good on tablet. Let's look at it on the mobile phone. It looks okay, but it could use some work. So let's start with the tablet and start making our changes. Okay. And what's great about this is on these rows, you have tablet padding margin. You have margins for everything. You have settings for each individual screen view. Okay, so we want the inner row right here. That's the one we're going to be making the changes to. So we have this outermost row and we have the innermost row. This innermost row is where we're going to be making our changes. So on the innermost row, what we want here is here's some of the options that we can utilize to showcase this a little bit better. So one of the things we can do, we can select to have 2 columns on the top and 1 column on the bottom. So let's try this out. Let's actually try 1 column on the top and 2 column two columns on the bottom. So when you select that, this is how it's laid out. So, but one of the things you notice, our image is really big, and this looks kind of interesting. So what we want to do here is actually, let's try a different version. Here we go. Aha, I think I like this one a lot better. This just looks a lot better. Okay, so we're going to select this version of it, and then we're going to make some tweaks. So the first tweak that we're going to make is obviously the size of our text. It's just too big. So I'm going to select that. And here on the font size, we're going to narrow this down to 36. And that looks really good. On the paragraph text here, we're going to narrow this down to 18. Excuse me, 16 on the tablet. We're going to leave the form just the way that it is. That looks really good. The image looks really good. And the benefits look good exactly where they are. We do not need to make any changes here. Let's go ahead and update and save our changes. And now we've optimized for tablet. So this looks really good on a tablet. Next, we're going to do our mobile phone, right? So I'm going to go ahead, select any row, look at the mobile view. And in the mobile view, I'm just looking to make sure that when the user sees this, that they have a good experience. So as we're looking at this on the mobile phone, this does look pretty good. Doesn't look like we have to make many changes. There's only one change that I would make, and that is that I will center this text, and I will center this text. And this looks a little bit scrunched here between the two, and I think I know why. The padding is pushing this in a lot. So we want to go ahead and select the section right above it, and let's just make sure that we don't have any padding to the right and no padding to the left. There we go. Now that looks a lot better. Everything's breathing really good, and our benefits look really good, and we are done. So we have completed the setup of this on desktop, tablet, and mobile, and our opt-in with background looks really good. Now for our final opt-in section layout, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's quickly review. So we built this one first. This was the second one that we built, and now the third version of this. Now, I really like this version. It's very simple. All it is two columns, and then you have the image of the lead magnet overlapping. So you've got this overlapping background here. So it makes it look like the book cover is overlapping the background or the row back there. And this is just a really clean one, and that will look good on a home page or even just on the page by itself. How do we create this? We're going to be doing a couple things here. We're going to be creating this effect, and we're just going to be putting in our image and our text and our form. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Okay, so we're going to go to New, create a new page. We'll call this third opt-in. And here we're going to go ahead and create our containers. So start with the row layout, and I want a general row layout here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a second row layout on the inside. And this time we're going to just be doing 2 columns. Then I'm going to go ahead and set up my page and make sure that my page is doing what I need it to do. So I want this to be, I want the page title disabled, full width, unbox content style, disable the content vertical padding. And then for the outermost row that we have here, I'm going to go ahead and select that block. For those of you that don't know, the outermost row is right here. We go to structure settings, under structure settings, content max width, inherit from theme. So that's creating our first initial bits of the layout here. Okay, then the next thing that we need to do, we need to add our image on this side and add our headings on the left side. So let's add our image first, because that's the easiest. So go ahead and click on the plus sign. We're looking for the advanced gallery, media library. I'm going to select my book cover, insert. It automatically defaults to 3 columns. I want this to be 1 column so I get the full book. There we go. That looks pretty good. Then the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that these are aligned to the center. So I'm going to select the immediate outermost row. I want that middle aligned so that it's all nicely centered. And that looks good for now. Great. Next, we need to add our heading, our paragraph, and our form. So let's go ahead and add the heading, advanced heading, the ultimate power recipes guide. Okay, hit enter. And here we just want another advanced heading, but this one we're going to set it to a paragraph. That way we get all our editing options with it. Paste, looks good. Next, add our form. Okay, now that we have the form, select the field that we don't need, delete it. Select the name field, turn off the label, add a placeholder, enter your name. Do the same thing for the emails. We don't want the label. Enter your email. Oh, this is still here. So why is that still there? We made it required, which we can. So we're going to turn this off. There we go. Enter your email. Then the button, grab your guide now. And we're going to change the color to our favorite color, which is orange. So text color is white. Background color, orange. Or you can just do FF6 500 to get the exact orange. And then remember, we also want to highlight Power Food Recipe. Highlight. And then the overall text for our heading here needs to be green. So let's give it a nice fresh green. There we go. Okay. All right, this is looking pretty good. Now we also want our button to be full width. So go to button styles, full width. Excellent. So we're pretty much done with our layout here. So if you look at it, the layout is pretty much set up. If we take a look and compare it to the one that we're putting together, we're pretty much done here. Now we just need to work on some spacing and this background overlap that we have going on here. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so here's what we do. We're going to go back to our design here, and I'm going to select the outermost. Actually, let's make some changes here first. So here, what I want to do is I want this to have a little shadow. So if you remember our technique, we'll find the section that's holding that image. So here's a section. I'm going to turn on box shadow. I want the blur to be 20. And the color, let's move the very subtle. There we go. And that's really all I need. Okay, that's done for that. So the next thing that we need to do here is I want this to have some padding on the left and right. So I'm going to go ahead and select that section. And on the right, I'm going to add 40 pixels. And on the left, another 40 pixels. So that looks pretty good. Then I kind of want this to have almost like a 60-40. There we go. That looks good. All right. So now when I close this out and I look at it, that looks nice and very clean, almost like the first one, but in reverse. So now we need to add the background and the overlap. So here's how we're going to do it. Now, when you select that outermost layer, you can do that by going to the tree, selecting the outermost layer. Another way to do that is if you're clicking around here, click anywhere, and then at the bottom here in the breadcrumbs, select the outermost layer by selecting the first row layout, and then you've got it. So what we want to do here is we're going to do a background overlay. So when I come here, get my background overlay, select gradient, and I'm going to select two colors. The first color is sort of a bright beige color. Okay, we'll settle for that right now. That's good. And then the second color is a greenish color. Actually, no, it's not green. It's closer to almost that orange that we had. So F6 500. All right, great. So now we have this gradient happening here, okay, right? So the other thing that I want to do is I want to change the orientation of the gradient. So right now it's going from top to bottom. I want to change that so that the beige is on the left and the orange is on the right. And the way we're going to do that is with the gradient angle. So if I start increasing this angle, you'll notice that the gradient is now moving around. So right now the orange is on top, right? If I start moving it the other direction, now the orange is more towards the right, right? So the number that you really want here is 90. That'll give you a straight, complete gradient that's going from left to right or right to left, okay? Then the next thing that we want to do is we want to sharpen this gradient. So the way you do that is right here we have opacity, color, location for the first color. So I'm going to set this location to 50. Then I'm going to look at the second color and I'm going to set that location to 50. And what that's going to create is a solid gradient. One color on one side, another color on the other side. And then I can start playing around with the location. So if I start moving this first location, it starts to eat away at the other one, right? And here we go. And we are now creating an overlap effect. So I'm going to go right to about the middle of this, of my asset here. And now I'm going to close this out. And you can now see we now have that gradient that we were working on. This is a great way to create overlap without using negative margins. So you can create overlap on anything if you want. And we can have future tutorials on how to do that. There's some really clever ways to use CSS and even just the basic options that are available in the Kadence Blocks Builder to really create some really nice layouts. So this is a really nice layout. And so now let's just take a look at what we've created here. I'm gonna go ahead and click update and let's view this page. One of the things I want to do is I want to create some more space here. It's not enough space in between the elements and the background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click on edit page, and I'm going to select that outer background, and we're going to go to our padding, and I'm going to make this 125 on the top, 125 on the bottom. I'm just going to add a little top margin here, 120, so it doesn't bump into that invisible header that I have there. Update. Okay, great. And now when we view the page, here we are. This way we can see the whole thing, right? You see the whole thing. And so here we are, right? So this is our layout, nice, clean, opt-in section. This would be great on a page on its own, or you could put it on a home page that you may be building out for yourself or for a client. And with that, that concludes the build out of super cool email opt-in sections that you can use in your WordPress website. And we did this 100% for free. We are going to be doing another tutorial where we're going to be showing some pro stuff. And if you want to be notified of that tutorial, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also, if you like this tutorial, please smash that like button. It helps us with the algorithm so we can show up in search. And also, if you have a comment or a question or something that you'd like to see us build with Kadence or with Gutenberg or any other plugin, just shoot it down into the comments. We'll read all the comments, and maybe we'll create that video for you. Once again, thank you very much for watching this tutorial and staying to the end, and I will see you in the next video.